Welcome to the Moon God Pod. I'm your host, JwowLax, and today we have DourMfer. Now, we're flipping the script. Once again, we're going to keep you guys on your toes. Typically, we always have moon gods, but I thought this guy's been active. I see him on Twitter and in the Discords. I wanted to bring in one of the almost moon gods. He is one chapter away. He's got the Holy Grail. He's got chapter 3. He just needs to snipe a chapter 2, and then he will get the elite access into the Moon God Discord channel. DourMfer, right out the gate, gotta tell us how'd you come up with the name? What's the significance? And by the way, we love the Dino Camo Akutar.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Yeah, I've got, I guess you could say, a taste. I've got a couple of Dino Helmet Akutars with the Abducted Visor too. So really like that one. Before jumping to answer your question, gotta say, still kind of in shock. I'm here doing this. I remember when you first asked, and I'm thinking to myself, does he have the right person? I mean, he knows I'm not a moon god, right? He, had to check your Twitter a couple times, make sure I wasn't getting scammed or anything. But I asked you, and you had some fun with it, and explained sort of what you're trying to do, mixing it up with non-moon gods here and there. And so, I figured, yeah, it sounds like fun. Let's do it. But at the same time, gotta admit, feeling a little pressure here, hoping not to ruin it for future non-moon gods on the to the Moon God Pod here. But getting back to your question, I mean, I first got into NFTs right at the beginning of the year, and was kind of trying to find my way, figure out, how am I gonna learn what I thought I needed to know to try and do something in the space. So kind of wandered around, lost for a little bit, and trying to find my identity here. And my handle ended up being kind of a mashup of two NFTs I got into fairly early on. Those being MFers and Dour Darcells. My MFer was kind of the first NFT of really any note that I got. I think I ended up getting that probably about 2 weeks after I bought my very first NFT, and I don't even remember what it was about.
Where did you buy? Where did you buy the first NFT? Was that Nifty Gateway?
No, the first one was an art blocks, just some generative thing. I mean, when I first started looking around, it was PFP seemed a little intimidating to me. I was like, I don't know how to evaluate any of this stuff, but let me go for something that I think looks cool. And so that kind of led me to art blocks, grab something there, which was also a bit of a rude awakening because I was like, what the hell is this gas fee? Why am I like paying double the price to be able to mint an NFT? So all part of my education. But that was, I mean, I literally started exploring NFTs New Year's Day of this year, New Year's Day 2022. And, it was really reading a Punk 6529 thread, ended up going down that rabbit hole, reading a bunch of his threads, and was like, all right, this seems like it could be transformational tech. Cartoon pictures appear to be the most practical use case for now. Let me look into this a little bit more. So I ended up getting my first NFT. I think it was middle of January. And so then by end of January, I got my MFer, and the whole thing with MFers, they're built around meme culture. There's this ethos of MFers do what they want, and the Twitter personalities are pretty damn funny. So got a lot of entertainment out of it. And then from there, as I'm trying to learn, like, how do you evaluate analyze different projects that are coming out. There's this other one that caught my attention that was minting sometime around March. That's called DourMfer. And it's this little egg-shaped guy that the artist, I think his name's Craig Redmond, kind of started illustrating years ago. It was a way for him to sort of do this visual blog about his experience in New York. The character looked cool, and then sort of just hearing more of his story behind the character, it's this like self-deprecating, self-conscious, somewhat fragile character. And I kind of that resonated with me. I looked at DourMfer. I was like, that's kind of who I am. But then looked at MFers as like, that's who I want to be. Kind of the guy who just doesn't really give a fuck. He's going to do whatever he wants. And so then the rest was history. Kind of mashed the two together. DourMfer. But at the same time, my MFer, Dour also describes my MFer's look. He's got a straight face. He's not the smiling MFer. So worked on a couple levels.
The MFers are interesting. I don't care how good the apes do, and the fact that the apes now own punks, but like the punks are very unique. I think the MFers are in that same kind of realm, in that like simple pixelation, when we came out with, there's the apes, the penguins, there was the lazy lions, there's just it's like every animal, it seemed like a new animal every week. And it really just seemed as if like you could just push a button, get 10,000 of these, and all the traits are similar. It's just a different animal. And that's what really kind of turned me off from the PFP. However, it's hard to argue with like the amount of money that people were making in the flipping game. In the cartoon, the PFPs, that's where it really was kind of being made. Now, you weren't there in the early Nifty Gateway days where there was like legit great art, and obviously Aku is part of that time frame where you'd mint something, and then an hour later you were selling it for 2-3x pretty easily. And then if you hit something really good, you were able to make some money pretty quickly. I'm curious, a lot of the people that we've had on this podcast, we all kind of have come roughly around the same time, sometime in 2021, but your entry is in 2022. What was the lead up? Like, what were you hearing that finally made you kind of start going down these rabbit holes?
Yeah. And I mean, I kicked myself because I definitely remember first hearing about NFTs March of 2021, right? And I think that would have predated the Bored Ape mint. But it didn't grab my attention. It wasn't anything that I explored. Started, or I should say, I didn't even buy my first crypto until May 2021. Just kind of let it sit there, and then watched as ETH and Bitcoin started to hit all-time highs toward the end of 2021. And then, like I mentioned, New Year's Day of this year, I saw a venture capitalist quote tweet a thread on investing just in general. And as I read through it, that ended up being that Punk 6529 thread. And it was on how to make it in crypto as a normal person. And then, he had put together this like thread of threads, and you go into that thing and there's just tons of information there, on sort of why he's so bullish on crypto, NFTs, what their significance is going to be going forward. I basically came out the other end of that convinced that NFTs and decentralization would essentially save humanity. You know, I mean, that's probably a bit hyperbolic and an
Well,
overstatement, but
how do you feel today?
uh, you know, I mean, I was going to say, even at the time, you know, I started to get a sense that long term uh, NFTs as a technology could be transformational. I definitely still believe that today, you know, that there are going to be um, very strong practical use cases for NFTs going forward. I think we're probably a little bit of ways from that, but I think we get there. Uh, NFTs as an investment, as a way, you know, to make quick money, that I think was um, an early misstep. You know, like I said, getting in at the beginning of the year, things are just kind of coming off all time highs, still there. You know, as I'm exploring and trying to learn more about NFTs, it just seems like people are printing money left and right. And I'm like, okay, let's go. You know, loaded up on some ETH, set up a MetaMask, started trying to figure out what I wanted to get first. And you know, that's I mentioned I was kind of like PFPs. It just seemed like I was going to need to put in more time to try and learn about those, like utility, value, just completely foreign concepts to me, right? Like take a look at something. If I like how it looks as a piece of art, all right, great, I'll take that. And that's kind of how I ended up, like I said, with the art blocks. But then you know, you get that first one, and it's like the degen kicks in, and so you know, started minting some more PFPs. After I got my MFR, then went way too heavy into MFR derivatives, which is definitely not the way to go if you're trying to make any sort of money. You know, and while I still hope, you know, maybe at some point there's some money to be made, but definitely, especially over the summer, had this sort of shift in mindset from you know, I'm not an NFT investor. You know, what I have always been is a consumer. You know, and so started looking at NFTs as kind of consumable goods, and started looking at myself as more of an NFT supporter. So trying to find artists and projects that I wanted to support. And those have been the ones that I've enjoyed having the most. You know, I look at the early stuff that I bought and just kind of shake my head. You know, everything I got with the goal of quote unquote investing or trying to make money. Look at that stuff now, and it's still sitting there in my wallet, and it's just, you know, overcome with this feeling of regret from that perspective.
Well, I can tell you there's a lot of stuff that like I just got tired of looking at and just like sold off. And then now I've got, you know, a couple projects, you know, that I aped in pretty hard. Um, and now they're just sitting in my wallet, and it's like I can't even unload them. You know, like it's not even worth the time for me to list them for like 10 or 20 bucks, you know, and I certainly paid, you know, 10x more than that for some of them. Um, you know, so we've got the MFers and the Dower, and this is your introduction. So when does Aku come into the picture for you? What was the first thing that you saw Aku related?
I mean, you know, probably not going to come as any big surprise, but as someone new to the space, especially around that time, first time I heard about Aku was because of the the Akutar mint contract issue, right? And what really stood out to me about that was this outpouring of support for Micah, you know, and seeing so many people on Twitter not necessarily come to his defense, but vouch for him and say, like, you know, this wasn't anything intentional, and just being really supportive of him, and then seeing his response to it, you know, and wanting to make things right, expressing sincere sorrow for how things turned out. It just seemed very real, and at that point, I didn't even know anything about chapters. I thought the Akutars looked awesome, and even despite the contract issue, they were trading pretty high and were out of my price range, So at the time, I just it popped up on my radar, but it wasn't anything that I was in a position to pursue. So kind of just let it fall by the wayside. And then
so your first exposure was not real, like for a lot of us, it's, yeah, especially the Genesis. Like when we saw the Genesis piece, it was just like, oh man, and we're all in. But your first response, your first, exposure is a pretty negative. I mean, it was the talk of the NFT space for a good week.
I mean, it was all over Twitter. Definitely, I saw it, and like I said, I was just really impressed with the response. The support for the project and for Micah as an artist. That definitely resonated with me, and that's why I looked at like, oh, well, what are these Akutars? And then I saw the price that they were trading at, and I was like, okay, well, this just isn't realistic for me right now, and that's kind of why I passed. And I forget exactly what it was that brought my attention back, though I suspect it had to do with the airdrops that were happening in June, with Titan season.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I think I started seeing something about that on Twitter. And at that time, the entry point had started to come down a little bit. And I hopped in the Discord and just started asking a bunch of questions. And two things immediately stood out to me. One, how helpful the community was in responding, especially Doug Loeb. I mean, that guy is amazing, and the true Aku evangelist, just trying to get the word out. So I was really impressed by that. And then the second thing that stood out to me was how much people in the community saw Aku, saw Akutars, the chapters as so much more than an investment or money, right? So that those things immediately caught my attention. I think there was like some AMA that came out that day too, so listen to that. And then Doug also pointed me to the expensive JPEGs interview Micah had done the month before. I think it was like May or something. And that really clinched it for me. It was the first time I heard Aku's origin story with, Micah's nephew asking him, can astronauts be black? And really what the motivation was for Micah creating this character. And I also like, oh, go ahead.
Just wanted to touch on that. I just find it so, when it comes to like some of these projects that are just, crap, but they get in a hype cycle and, they have run-ups and all these, crazy things. And you see certain projects that, if you're looking at like floor price, like they are higher floor prices than this. And I just tell people, it's like, the one thing that Aku could do better, but I don't, being around it so long is it's just not as big a priority. Is that, really trying to, find a way to get it marketed better. But all you have to do is if you Google Micah and you see the articles written and, like watch one interview. I mean, you could go back and watch the old interview me and JwowLax did, in 2021, like a month or two after his initial release of Genesis. I mean, I could still watch that and sit there and get goosebumps because the dude just like he's got that fire in him, and and I reflect back, and I just think, I remember after I got off that call with him, I was like, this dude is either like lost it or he's a genius. And I went with more of the genius lever, because I was like, some of his vision was so grandiose. Um, and I think that, like I feel like that's probably what you kind of experienced when you heard him speak.
So what's funny is because, like you said, a lot of you, especially everyone on the pod up to now, has really been around from, if not the beginning, very close to it, right? And so I'm playing catch up in that sense, going back and listening to a lot of this older stuff. I mean, I think it was like last week I listened to um, uh, Micah's interview with RD for NFT origin stories. That was like a year ago. And um, hearing Micah talk then about what his vision for the project was, I think it was only a few chapters in at that point, maybe a couple chapters. But being in the position of now to seeing where that has gone, and seeing that this vision Micah laid out is coming to fruition. It's happening. It's been really cool, to sort of be able to see both in real time. Not like if you were hearing that interview at the time, you're sitting there waiting. Okay, is this going to happen? Let's see what happens. I'm like working my way back where I'm seeing the results and trying to figure out, okay, how did we get here? And seeing that this was, this has all been planned from the beginning. So something with like Aku Cribs, and hearing, going back and hearing Micah talk about at the time when Akutars are coming out, why were they built in Unreal Engine, and what was that laying the groundwork for? And, just having that perspective of now being able to see like, wow, there has been a lot of thought, a lot of planning, a lot of strategy, a lot of heart that's gone into all this. That's definitely resonating, and I think has been sort of a unique part of my experience in terms of kind of starting at not the end point, but definitely having to do some working backwards to see how did we get here, because I didn't live it with all of you. So yeah, that's just been very interesting experience. I think given me some cool perspective.
I definitely believe that, a year from now, we'll probably, I believe we'll all be here, and, you'll be considered an OG. Like the time space continuum in this space is just insane. We were talking about before, it's like I'm coming up on 2 years, and a lot of people would consider me an OG, but you know, nobody knows. Like no, like there's no college degree or master's levels class you can get, and what we're seeing, is even the smartest people, like FTX is exposing this, like even the smartest people like make mistakes. Like I don't, we have a segment on this, and I'm going to pose this to you. What's the biggest rug that you've had? I definitely bought this thing by Super Plastic called Cranky, and it just kept going up and up and up. I think it sold for 500. I bought it 2 hours after mint for like 6,000, and I immediately listed it for 8,000. And boy, I bought it right at the top, and then it just started going down and down and down and down, and I never sold it. And I don't even know that I could get 500 for it now. Like we all have those stories. And then I clicked on a link and lost $20,000 in Ethereum. Like as smart as you can be in this space. There are people that have been in here for a month that do the research and know more than me. And then there's people that, have been in here for years, and bought like Bitcoin when it was $5 and make a mistake, or maybe they had their stuff on BlockFi and now they're, feeling a world of hurt. Hopefully all that gets corrected, So I think you're in a good space, my friend. And I'm curious what your biggest rug so far has been.
Yeah, I think I've been fortunate, and that's in spite of myself more than anything. I mean, there definitely was like when I first started exploring the space, getting into Discord, and you get those random DMs or like new, early mint or new more supply released, and I don't know how. Like I clicked some of those links. Luckily, nothing ever happened. Probably because I just didn't have enough ETH or whatever in my wallet worth taking. So I definitely lucked out in that sense. I think if anything, the biggest rug at the same time has kind of been myself, just in terms of the stupid mistakes that I made. Right, like understanding that there's no value in derivatives, but I was like, oh, people are going to want to pair this derivative with this OG collection. And it's just going to, it makes sense. I'm like, why did I think that, but I look at it now as just kind of like, cost of education, right? And that's kind of, the learning costs of kind of getting to, this point that I'm at now, where I try and be more selective. Like I said, focus on projects that I want to support more than make money on. At the same time, I think if you're here, everyone's got that little bit of degen in them, right? So I'll still mint or buy stupid shit every now and then, but I think it's just part of the having fun. I think these first 10 and a half months now, it's just been a lot of learning, and it's the more I learn, the more I realize how little I know, and it's like there's just going to be this, I think, constant education, and I think that's another thing that's really resonated with me about the Aku community, in terms of how helpful people are willing to be, and how supportive of others within the community everyone's willing to be. I mean, a perfect example of that was when the Aku Sundays, the daily fantasy, started, right? And there are a bunch of people. I don't know anything about football. I don't know anything about fantasy. And who was it? Shintao and I forget who else did a space, like a quick little primer on fantasy football, to try and get people up to speed. Which, I mean, every fantasy football league I've ever played in, it's like dog eat dog. Like any advantage you can get over your competitors, you're going to take that. That wasn't the case here at all. It was all about friendly competition, trying to teach, and I really appreciated that.
Did you buy? So you bought the Akutars first, correct?
And so, yeah, I mean, for me, it was, once I made the decision that, this was a project that I wanted to get into, is just kind of about getting into the ecosystem. But I'd also asked in the Discord, what's better to have, Akutars, chapters, and again, Doug talked about how chapters are really the foundation for the whole project, but right now Akutars are kind of the focus. So I grabbed 2 floor Akutars and a chapter 7. That's kind of what I started with. Grabbed those all the same day, and then everything kind of snowballed from there. Picked up another Akutar a few days later, and it was funny because like those tweets, and I was like, "Hey, look what I did." probably got more engagement than any of my other tweets before. You know, it's like just the Aku community flooding. Hey, congrats! You know, a bunch of likes and stuff. The We Are Aku account retweeting it and just getting more attention there. I was like, hey, this is pretty cool. You know,
You recently picked up the chapter 3, which is the bottleneck to becoming a moon god. Basically, you might not have the full collection yet. You're still waiting on the chapter 2, but you hold the key to being a moon god. When did you decide to kind of start pursuing like the actual official moon god status? And or was it when you finally like it feels like once you buy chapter 3, then that's when you really make the decision at this point in the game.
I mean, definitely, I think the seeds started being planted over the summer. You know, so I got those first two Akatars in chapter 7 early June. You know, and as I learned more about the project, what Mike and the team are wanting to do with it, you know, how the Akatars are separated into 5 different teams. My first goal became, okay, I want one Akatar for each team, so that I don't miss out on any team specific drops, competitions. That was my first goal. Hit that within a couple months, I think. But it was just kind of through that process, spending more time in the Discord, learning about the chapters, even though I didn't own them, watching all the chapters. I remember after watching them, I just had this amazing conversation in the Discord with Cheers, Cal, Captain Enemy, Doug about our favorite chapters and different interpretations of the different chapters. And it was just like over time, found myself spending more and more time in the Aku Discord. Love seeing Micah in there, engaging with the community. Really appreciated that. Rarely, if ever, was the discussion about price, and it just seemed very genuine and real in a way that a lot of other Discords didn't. So once I, had my 5 Akutars, and just kind of spending more time with the project, 3 things really started to crystallize for me, in terms of obviously the chapters and Akutars look amazing. Like the art, I think, is incredible, right? Then the story behind Aku, what he stands for, in terms of diversity, inclusion, representation. Those are all things that are very personal and important to me. And then, sort of what binds it all together, the community. Family is something that's very important to me. I feel like I've always thrived in smaller, more familial settings. And while there are a bunch of Aku holders, and you get in Discord, it still has, I think, that like small family feel, so really like that. And then it was, I think, around the end of August, there were like 2 or 3 new moon gods, and you just kind of saw the community really rally around those people, and it was this like big celebratory event. And like I say, this is about the same time that I started shifting in mindset from NFT investor to NFT project supporter. And I was like, as an Aku supporter, becoming a moon god would be the biggest thing I could do to throw my support behind Aku, right? So then I decided, all right, that's what I wanted to do. Slowly started accumulating the other chapters. But I knew, that like you said, 3 is that bottleneck. That was going to be the big one, right? And so I had sort of a horizon in mind, but I've never really been good with delayed gratification. So I'll say definitely way ahead of the schedule I had set myself. But as it came down to these last two, with needing chapter 2 and chapter 3, I knew I wanted to get chapter 3 first because that was going to be the most difficult one. And so, now just chapter 2 away. I've had fun with it. Been tracking my progress on Twitter. There's a thread on it, and with each update, it's just this a huge outpouring of support from the community. Freddie numbers has been huge in that respect. Hey, I'm behind you. Let's go. You're going to get there. It's been fun, and then everyone needs a glitch in their corner, right? I mean, that guy is amazing. And it's just been really fun to try to become a bigger part of this community. I've also found that the more I invest in communities that I'm a part of, the more I get out of them. And that's definitely turning out to be the case, so hopefully not too in the not too distant future, grab my chapter 2 and be able to get behind those pearly token gates into the moon god Discord channel.
Just got to play that global offer game, the week game.
I am, and if when this airs, anyone feels pity and is willing to part with extra chapter 2 for a reasonable price, find me.
We we mentioned before we hit record that just bringing in your education from, for me it's a poker education and risk analysis, game theory, and things. And there's a legit game theory. Breezy took advantage of it. He scored a chapter 3 for a ridiculously low price, I think under 3,000, and then immediately sold it for 7,000. A couple hours later. If you are really plugged in, you can definitely make the money. I will say this for you in terms of you have a great approach as far as there's an education process to this, but the number one thing is aligning yourself with projects that you just and you like the art. There are some masterful money makers in the NFT and crypto space that are flipping and are just on top of it. But at the end of the day, I feel I've consolidated so much of my bag now to where the majority of it, I'm cool with, I want to focus on just a handful of projects that I really like. And I'm good with that, as opposed to I never, it's a weird thing. In poker, I can't tell you one hand of poker that ever won me a tournament. I won a lot of tournaments as a pro, but I can with great detail tell you my baddest beats.
Mm-hmm.
Of a home poker game that meant nothing, I can remember those bad beats, but I can't tell you, the hand that I won to take down, whatever tournament, that I play in, whether it's in an LA casino or Vegas casino and stuff. It's kind of funny how that works, and I think that's a pro athlete's mindset, too. It's those losses, they sting. I happen to have met with Summer the other night, and it came up in conversation about the contract, and you can just see I use the example. This is going to date me, but it's like talking to a Kentucky fan about 1992 against Duke, Christian Laettner. It jabs them a little bit. Or I guess I believe you're affiliated with USC, so maybe when Vince Young and the Texas Longhorns won.
I went there for grad school, but still definitely kept my undergrad allegiance. But I saw how that game definitely impacted the Trojans. The people who are Trojans through and through. Um, but I definitely know what you're talking about. That the closest I came to winning an Aku football Sunday, I lost in the last minute of the Rams Cowboys game with a short little like 10-yard pass from Stafford to Higbee, and that stands out in my mind. Like you're saying.
Was I in contention for that one too? Because there was one where Cal, I believe, tagged me and said, "Congratulations, JWoww," and literally, like the last play possible, someone scored and like out, and knocked me out. And I think I got like ended up getting like second or third, but it was like somebody called the win before the clock expired, and I lost. That's a big nut punch.
Those sting, yeah, those sting. But I mean, in terms of like what you were mentioning with respect to education, what's funny is like, I thought like in my my job is very analytical, and so I have to that's what I have to do: analyze situations, come up with scenario responses, answers. And so I figured, coming into NFTs, like, all right, I'm a pretty analytical thinker. I can figure out, what might be a good project to get into, how to make money here and there. Um, but I didn't know what I was analyzing. What did I need to look at to actually make a good decision? And I was clearly casting too wide of a net. I thought I knew more than I did, uh, and so what I've seen is definitely my focus just get more narrow. Like you said, focus on a couple of things that you really believe in, really support, and kind of go with that. There was this tweet I saw the other day that really put words to kind of like what I think, I won't even call it a strategy, more of what my approach has become, was only buy an NFT if you expect it to be worth something in 5 years, are good at selling and know the exit plan, or feel a connection and are fine with it going to zero. And, I kind of find myself gravitating towards that last category of feel a connection and fine with it going to zero. I definitely don't think that's going to be the case with Aku, but there's definitely a connection there. And, I think that's why my conviction for the project is so strong.
No, I see it all the time, and like you're active on Twitter, and you know you know the familiar faces, and I think it's amazing. I did that you came in after the contract issue. Um, it gives me even more hope and belief, because I was having a conversation last night with my buddy who's a mega moon god, and he we were just reflecting on that night because we had a big steak dinner. We had reservations. We're sitting at the table, and we had to listen to Micah, in summer, like just apologizing, and the worst night ever. Like, we went from 100 to 0 real quick. Like we're sitting there eating our steak dinner. Like, well, this sucks. Like this was supposed to be a big night for us. But the response and you know at the end of the day, um, it, it brought in someone like you, and I think that there's other people that came along with you as well, and you know everybody loves a comeback story, and this is a Hollywood script being written as we see it, and then it's unfolding right before our eyes. So with that, we are kind of running a little bit out of time, but I always finish the show with two super important questions. For the first question, though, I want to give you the choice. You can use the subject is of the question is either sports or travel. Which one would you like to pick?
Sports. Let's go.
All right. You can sit like the best seats in the house for any championship game in the world. What game is it, and what two teams are playing?
A game that's already happened, or
No, no.
a game that's coming up?
Like if like 2023. Here's your free tickets to this championship, Super Bowl, World Cup. I mean, if you decide to pick World Cup or the Olympics, like every 4 years, but whatever. But you get the best seats, front row, center court, midfield, whatever, skybox. What's the championship game, and what are the two teams playing?
Yeah, that's an easy one. So I'm a Bay Area guy, diehard Warriors fan. Tickets I want are center court, Chase Arena, uh, some drama. So let's go Game 7, NBA Finals. Doesn't matter who the opponent is.
Well, you get no. You got to pick the opponent, but I'm gonna, because this is a fictional thing, anyways. It doesn't have to be an East Coast. You could actually pick a West Coast team as well. So championship game title.
I'm gonna go Phoenix.
Really?
Warriors Phoenix. Yeah.
Why Phoenix?
Love Chris Paul as a player. Great player. Never been the biggest fan of his antics. And I know just watching those old Warriors Clippers games, he really doesn't like losing to the Warriors. So there'd be a sense of satisfaction there. Watching the Warriors, yeah, take out the Suns and Chris Paul.
That's kind of mean because he always loses. Like he's got a heart of a champion that will never be a champion. It's not going to happen for him.
He is an incredible player. I mean, he truly is like the point god. Like he runs that position how it is supposed to be played. So great player. Definitely can't take anything away from him there. But yeah, it's just some of the like I said, on court antics I'll just find a little annoying.
Do you put Steph Curry in your top 5 all-time NBA players? It's kind of hard because you can't put him in your top like starting lineup, but you could possibly have him as your top 5 all time.
Yeah, I mean, you look at, I'm trying to think just like talent wise, look at skills. Obviously, Jordan, LeBron, top 2. Bird, Magic. It's tough, I mean, you just limited spots. But I think in terms of sort of transformational players, definitely top 5. And the way he's changed the game and how it's played, yeah.
Yeah, so if you did just like changing the game, then that top 5, well, Jordan is there because he's the GOAT. But Shaq is in there because all the whole defense has changed because of Shaq. And of course, Steph Curry is there. And then you probably have to go, like Wilt Chamberlain, or probably Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, because they outlawed dunking. And now you got a 7'3" guy doing sky hooks, so he was one of them too. But I give Steph, which I think is better than, potentially being a top 5, is like he will die the greatest shooter in NBA history. although I think Klay Thompson has a better like stroke, I'm still giving the ball to Steph if I need to hit a three. You got the two greatest shooters, I would say, of all time on your team right now. So that's
we've been spoiled the last few years, but it was, you know, from my perspective, hard earned. We lived through some rough, lean years there when I was growing up. So
you mean having Baron Davis and
I'm going way back before we
well, you had
believed, you know.
Run TMC, which was good years.
And they, it was funny, they just did a takeover broadcasting the game last night, so that was great. Too short lived. We'll never forgive Don Nelson for trading Mitch Richmond away to the Kings for Billy Owens.
I loved Spreewell when he was on the Warriors. That was because he went to New York and he was still good. Well, Minnesota and New York, he was still okay, but like he was a killer when he was with the Warriors.
I think he took over the first team All NBA shooting guard spot from Jordan after Jordan retired. He was incredible. You know, too bad PJ Carlesimo's neck looked so appetizing. He had to go wrap his hands around it.
I love how like the Jordan Poole thing is such a big deal. It's like, do you know what happened there 20 years ago? Or like who you guys had on your team? Spree? Come on. But no, that's great. So as a 9/10 moon god, who would you like to see on the pod? And the caveat is you have to help us get them on. And for you, it's got to be a moon god though.
I'm trying to think if I heard his name yet from the other episodes, but Doug Loeb. You know, I want to hear where his conviction came from, you know, and why he's such a strong Aku believer, because it definitely comes through in how he engages with people in the Discord. He, like I said, was extremely helpful when I first started exploring the project. So I would just love to hear more about his journey. So I'll see what I can do. I'll slide into his DMs on Twitter. Although I wouldn't be surprised if you already got him lined up.
We are working on getting Doug. He has been requested. So now we have even more leverage to tell him to prioritize the moon god over, you know, family and work and all that stuff that, you know, gets in the way. Is there, so as a newbie, is there any questions that you would like to ask the moon god pod? I mean, if you're good, you're good. You know, I'm here to help.
No, yeah, I'd like to, yeah, I mean, I love last week's episodes, hearing, you know, your sort of backstory, how you got here, hearing the same from JwowLax. That was amazing. I'll maybe press you for a little bit in terms of a prediction. You know, where do you see Aku 5, 10 years, or where would you like to see him?
I think predicting 5 or 10 years is actually relatively easy. You know, I would like to say like I would say like in 10 years, like I think that there will be like an Aku World installation at like Disney. You know, I would like to think that, you know, Aku is Disney. Like, so instead of being a part of Disney, it's just, you know, a theme park of like Aku World. And, you know, there's been a movie and there's a TV show and, you know, like how Disney has ABC Mouse, like there's an ABC Aku. I think all those things are completely possible. And I think in 10 years, like that's realistic. 5 years, my hope is that all the moon gods have been on the red carpet at the movie premiere of Aku, and it does great. And then, my whole goal really for 2022 is I kind of felt like 2022 was um, uh, like a planting the seeds year. And my thought was that 2023 would be more of the harvest. And it's kind of interesting because of, we at least in the Aku space, we had that big spike and all the eyeballs on us. And now everything is it's kind of like we just scorched the crops. So, um, I would like to see 2023 be a very fruitful year, and I think that there's definitely some interesting stuff. But 2023 is probably going to be more, a little bit of growing pains, and all these things take so much time. It's such a new technology, and in the NFT space, it's been a week. Why haven't we? Where's the video game? What? Why isn't the movie done? Or these things take a long time. So, but again, just for the same thing, like I'm a collector, I'm supporting the project in every way that I can, and getting to do this podcast and getting to meet cool guys like you and everyone else so far, like that's the real gift. I'm obviously not getting paid big bucks to do this. But if I didn't believe in it, then I would probably have a podcast on something totally different, But I think we're in good hands. Every time I actually get to meet and see Micah in person or Summer, like there's a bit of like, juice that comes with it. When you can look someone in the eye, you're like, you know, like there's like some Kobe in those two.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. Well, all right, brother. I think that's gonna do it for us today. Definitely appreciate you coming on and giving us like an insight into the 9/10 moon god vantage point.
Like I said, appreciate you having me on. Hopefully, I didn't ruin it for anyone else. And there will be other non-moon gods to follow.
Yeah, we're gonna definitely mix it up a little bit and give some flowers. But the funny thing is, pretty sure by 2023 somebody's going to be in the Moon God channel. That's my prediction. So we look forward to it.
I'm hoping that one pays out. Definitely.
Go hit up those global offers. So
I'm on it. I'm working on it. Working on it.
All right, guys. Well, that's been another episode of To the Moon God Pod for DourMfer. I am JwowLax. We will see you next time.